if this lesson has not been made apparent to everybody already, you have to kill BYU when you have the chance. All right. We learned that today emphatically in BYU's 14-point win over Iowa State. Congratulations to the Cougs for doing it again, man. This was a really impressive performance. The Big 12 is open for business. Beck's Big 12 podcast on planet Earth. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here today. A little instant reaction as we end the 2:30 window here, which was a busy one in the Big 12, a very busy one in the Big 12. We still have a game going on. Cincinnati is putting the finishing touches on Baylor after getting pushed in the second half. And I do want to talk about Cincinnati later on. They're playing as good a football as about anybody in the league, minus BYU, who, of course, is the lead topic here with a tremendous win in Ames. And Texas Tech. Hey, Texas Tech rolled. Didn't have to play Baron Morton today. Used Will Hammond just a little bit, and they get a huge win. That's going to set up a tough game now all of a sudden at K-State next week before Texas Tech then hosts BYU, which is going to be a monster matchup in a couple of weeks. I could not be more thrilled that we have that one now setting up for what it appears to be. And man, I just could not be more impressed with the overall poise of the BYU football program, man. They just don't panic. It was not looking good there in the first half. I mean, BYU at one point had allowed 320 plus yards in the first half to Iowa State. I think by the end of the first half, it wound up being 318, but 318 yards of offense given up in the first half to Iowa State, just absolutely gashing BYU. And BYU's offense was puttering along. You know, I mean, there were some plays there, but it was not consistent enough. It just looked like they were being outclassed. And then what happened? The game turns on one horrible interception from Rocco Becht. A horrible interception. And that to me is what really kind of sums this thing up, man. When I say you've got to kill BYU when you have the chance, I mean it. You've got to kill BYU when you have the chance. They had them. Iowa State did totally on the ropes there. 17-7, driving with the ball. And Rocco Becht just throws a horrible pass. Looked like some miscommunication. There was a long conversation between Becht and the receiver then on the sideline after that. But it's the type of mistake that you just can't make. Like, say what you will about BYU, and I know a lot of people say a lot of things about BYU and how good they actually are, what this team actually is. But at the end of the day, this is a team that is always going to stay in the fight, and they're just going to be there lurking, and they are not going to quit and fold up shop. And Iowa State learned that the really, really hard way today. And it may have come at a bit of a price for BYU. We'll talk about the LJ Martin injury. I mean, Bear Bachmeier, for that matter, he was pretty beat up too throughout the game. And I think it's worthy of having a conversation. Like, do you have to scale things back a little bit for Bachmeier in terms of the amount of wear and tear that he has? But you also kind of can't, especially in a game like this when you fall behind in a hole. And it looks like Iowa State. I mean, look, from play one, it looked like in the first half, Iowa State was just going to be their day, right? I mean, situationally, everything favored Iowa State in this matchup. They were well rested coming off of a bye. You've got to worry about the letdown factor if you're BYU after beating Utah last week, and then you're going on the road to a juiced up crowd, one of the toughest places to play in the league. All of that situationally working against BYU, and then the first play of the game is Brett Eskelson popping you for like 80 yards on a catch and run touchdown. And you think, oh boy, all right, this may get a little bit tough. And that BYU defense, which is typically so reliable and so steady, was just getting gashed up and down in the first half. I was going to go see if I could find the quarter and half. Okay, in the first half, it was 318 yards given up by BYU's defense in the first half, which is crazy. Almost 9 yards of play for Iowa State in the first half. In the second half, that turns into just 5.2 yards per play and 177 total yards. And BYU's offense, meanwhile, actually pretty consistent, 214 and 196 in each half. That is another thing I think is really impressive by BYU. I think this offense has just come along slowly, and the rest of the league has just allowed Bear Bachmeier to continue to grow and develop and make clutch plays and become more and more confident without handing him a loss. Nobody can hand BYU a loss as all of this happens with Bachmeier. But Iowa State had a couple massive missed opportunities here. Obviously, the Rocco Becht pick is the first one where the tide totally shifts after that. And it didn't happen like totally immediately, by the way. I think one of the bigger plays in the game was Will Farron hitting a 49-yard field goal after that to make it 17-10 when, hey, like, yes, BYU drives down, but the drive sort of stalls and you need some kind of points and some kind of momentum there. And if Farron misses that kick, it could have just sort of washed away the Rocco Becht interception. But instead, he hits the kick. You gain a little bit of momentum. I thought that was one of the bigger plays in the game for sure. But even after all of that, right, the game's tied in the second half. BYU goes 3 and out. BYU has to punt the football. Iowa State and Rocco Becht, they're about to get the ball back. They are about to get the ball back with a chance to take the lead. And what happens? You just, I don't even know if it's fair to call that a muff. You just have a guy not paying attention and winds up stepping right into the football and you lose it on that punt. I mean, just a crazy, I hesitate to call it like a fluky play because it is a real unforced error, but it's not a very common one that you're going to see. And it was absolutely not really like a, hey, I'm trying to make a football play sort of a thing. It was a really crazy turnover there for Iowa State, but you can't have that sort of sloppiness when you're playing this BYU team. You absolutely cannot have that sort of sloppiness when you're playing this BYU team. They'll make you pay. And to me, those are the two biggest plays of the game. Like, we can talk about the Rocco Becht pick 6. If you want to talk about like, Parker Kingston going up in the air to snatch that one away for the touchdown that put BYU up by 7. That was actually right after the muff punt. There were a number of really big plays. But to me, it's definitely the fact that the punt happened when it felt like, oh, okay, Iowa State's got the momentum in the ball back. They can go take the lead. And that was the moment, the broadcast was kind of all over this. That was the moment where like Rocco Becht is usually making the big play, right? Like, that's where he is usually the guy to come in and say, hey, I'm going to close this thing out. Like, this is where I get it done. And the broadcast is talking about that. And as they are talking about that, Rocco Becht throws a pick 6. So in that moment, Iowa State gives the ball away on a muff punt, and then Rocco Becht gives the ball away, which, I mean, really, that was a hell of a play. Obviously, you'd want to look back in retrospect and say, hey, don't throw that football. But that really was just an incredible break on the ball. Unbelievable play and run back for a touchdown. And this is where I will have to give my buddy Cole Manbeck, who does the 3 Mob podcast with me, a lot of credit. He talks about this a lot with Rocco Becht, that when he turns it over, man, like, he turns it over. Not only are there usually a lot of turnover-worthy plays, and he tends to have a lot of fortune that most of those don't get cashed in like that one did, but he also has had a number when he does turn it over, many of them do get run back. So he's susceptible to that. And BYU made him pay. After the defense got just run over and trucked in the first half, they came back and made things happen. So kudos to the Cougar defense for doing that to kind of, and obviously, I mean, by that point, the game was essentially over after that pick 6, right? Just a huge play. Man, the BYU offense. I'm telling you what, I know you can say what you will, and I got some pushback on Twitter from some people about this when I tweeted, hey, the league kind of let the BYU offense just develop under the radar into what is now a very good unit, and they did it all without taking a loss. And I got some pushback. Hey, don't get too carried away. This is an Iowa State secondary that's down. It's starting 2 corners who are out for the year. I understand that. I do get that. It's not like this is a quintessential Iowa State secondary or defense. They have lost some very good players for sure. I would point out, like, Dominique Orange was back in the game, at least today. But yes, it's a somewhat beleaguered and down Iowa State defense, but it's not, to me, just based on this game. Like, I thought we saw the BYU offense start to come alive a bit last week in the win against Utah. And today, I mean, look, Bear Bachmeier throws for 307 yards. He completes 63% of his passes, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns. I just feel like he's coming along so much as a passer. And between Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston, man, they've just got 2 total ballers out there at receiver who seem to really be on the same page with Bachmeier, and they're just out there making plays. Bachmeier's got a knack for letting those guys, do a lot of the hard work for him. But for instance, like the Parker Kingston, hey, I'm just going to go yoink this ball away, a jump ball against the defensive back near the goal line. Bear Bachmeier knows I'm going to go let my dude make a play, even though Parker Kingston's not a big guy. You don't think of him as being a jump ball merchant. But he goes up and makes that play. If you let those guys do it, Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston, they seem to always be the ones making those monster plays. For Chase Roberts, it's more like the run after the catch stuff. Just get him the ball and let him go. He had 128 yards receiving on 8 catches today, 61 yards after the catch. So great stuff from Chase Roberts. That's what we're used to seeing out of him. Now, I say all this about the offense. Obviously, well, for one, I guess the counter to the Iowa State point there, hey, that's a defense that's down and out, a little bit injured. Well, LJ Martin only had 5 carries in this game, right? BYU had to play most of the game without LJ Martin at running back, and you certainly hope that that's not going to be a big long-term deal. But that's a huge factor. BYU's playing without its starting running back and a guy who means so much to that offense. But I feel like what we learned today is like you hope that he's there, but they don't have to have him to play well and win big-time Big 12 games because the passing attack has developed enough. Had this happened in like week 3, even if it's like the East Carolina game or something, BYU may be in more trouble. If it's Colorado, right? That game was a dogfight in Boulder. If LJ Martin is getting knocked out for almost the entirety of that game, right? Might be a different story. But BYU's passing offense and Bear Bachmeier being the central focal point of the offense has developed enough to where you can survive that and still win a big game in a really tough road environment and win it going away basically by 14 points. I just feel like the BYU season has leveled up a ton in the last 2 weeks by proving that they can go beat a team the caliber of Utah and do it to the point where, it was very similar to this until the late touchdown by Utah in the game. Like that very easily could have been, that was one throw away, the 4th down throw to Chase Roberts in the end zone. That was one throw away from being a 17-point win instead of a 3-point win. And now here you win this one by 14 in Ames on the road. And look, Iowa State is in some ways a shell of itself when it was at its peak this year. But still, to win that game on the road and to do it and come from behind fashion when you dig yourself an early hole, people got to stop. If anyone's trying to discount or discredit BYU at this point, I would just highly suggest you stop. They're 8-0 for a second consecutive year, and every doubt that you come up about them, like they just keep winning and proving themselves. And now you do get a bye week. Like that's another thing I would emphasize here. Like BYU will have a bye week now to try and get healthy. We'll see about LJ Martin. Like I see, and guys, I see the super chats. I'll get to them in a second. I promise. This is just on topic. Bye week can't come soon enough. Any news on the Martin injury? I haven't seen anything other than just obviously everything everyone was tweeting earlier that he had to leave the game, took his pads off and was out there on the sideline. Don't know. And that's going to be a huge thing. Like if BYU wants to win the league, yeah, you probably do need LJ Martin. If you want to win at Texas Tech, you probably do need LJ Martin. But man, Bear Bachmeier just continues to, I feel like, grow every single week. He makes more and more plays. He's doing it now more in the passing game. It didn't have to be as much on the ground today. And there was a little bit of that. Let's see, Bachmeier finished 12 carries, 49 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. So there's some of that. He's always going to make some plays, but they didn't have to rely on him as much. Though I will point out there were 2 instances in the game where he was getting up a little bit gimpy. And I do start to wonder now, we're getting past the midway mark of the season. He has taken a lot of carries. So he's 5 straight games. He's had 11 plus carries. One of those games, it was 22 times. One of those games, it was 15. So you are putting a lot of wear and tear on his body. The good news is in this game, you probably could have gone in with the attitude of like, well, hey, we've got a bye week coming. So we have a chance to get him back up to speed, get back rested, get his feet back under him, so to speak. And that will help a bunch. But as you navigate through the rest of the schedule, which, as everybody has discussed ad nauseum, is not easy, not just this game at Texas Tech. You still got to go to Cincinnati, man. You still got to go to Cincinnati. And I want to talk about the Bearcats in just a moment here. but that's going to be a very tough game. In between there, it's TCU. I mean, the Horned Frogs are also certainly a capable enough team. Okay. But I mean, Cincinnati just beat Baylor 41-20. They're 7-1. They're 5-0 in the Big 12. You've got basically the two toughest. BYU can't play on the road at itself. So other than that, you've got the two toughest road trips in terms of caliber of team, it appears, that you could possibly face in the league coming up in two of the next three games. So how much do you have to keep putting hits on Bear Bachmeier? How much are you taking a chance there? He's a big dude. He's a sturdy dude. Clearly he's tough as nails, but that is something I think to monitor, because we saw that starting to get to him at points throughout the game today. So, yeah, like I said, 11 plus carries in 5 straight games. We'll see what happens there. I'd imagine he's going to have to carry it quite a bit at Texas Tech, even if it's just from scrambling, because you would expect that the Texas Tech pass rush is going to be pretty effective, because they always are, because that defensive line is just so damn good. So, in a nutshell, those are my thoughts on BYU. Got to kill them when you have the chance. That goes for Texas Tech too, by the way. No matter who's playing quarterback, no matter what the situation is, no matter what's going on, Texas Tech, you got to kill them when you have the chance. If you get them on the ropes early like Iowa State did, you cannot just let them back into the game, and especially to do it with a stupid turnover and then have another stupid turnover in a tie game in the second half. I feel like BYU's offense continues to evolve right in front of our eyes, and need to utilize the bye week and hope like hell that LJ Martin is not going to be out for an extended period of time. But this is an insane run. I mean, Coug fans, this is an insane run that your team is on right now. They start 9-0 last year. You're 8-0 this year. After losing your quarterback post spring ball, and you're starting a true freshman, like, just take this in. You can have moments of being critical or whatever, but I just take this in. This is not an easy thing to do at all. And it happens as like everybody is doubting you. And obviously a part of this was beating Utah, right? Like beating your arch rival as well. So let me pop in for a couple of super chats here. Click the $ below the chat box if you want to leave one of those. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Both of those things are totally free and help me a lot. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. If you do that, you will get it twice to your inbox totally for free every single week. Big 12 news without Big 10 or SEC bias. Join 5,400 other Big 12 fans who do. Michael, what's up, Michael? Holy crap, Kurtz, I'm in shock. I had to watch on delay and caught up with 2 minutes left in the game. Bear is a monster, getting smarter every play. Yeah, I mean, he's wise beyond his years for a true freshman, and he's now getting this game experience. I mean, I can remember having the take in the offseason, like, I was like, I really kind of hope Bear Bachmeier wins the job. One, not just because it's the most interesting to me because of his pedigree, the level, the caliber of prospect that he was, but also because that makes it more intriguing for like what happens. And I was even thinking at that time, like what happens for BYU next year? You know, you get them those reps this year. How good are they going to look next year? Well, I mean, yes, you can consider that, but they're good right now. They're very good right now. So congratulations, Michael. Couldn't agree more that he is a smart, poised quarterback for a true freshman who's now getting the much needed reps under his belt, and he continues to step up and make a bunch of plays every single game. Let's see. All right. I hope I am pronouncing this correct. Kavoth at Texas Roadhouse for Mom's birthday, but go Cougs. Look, I love Texas Roadhouse. Total sucker for Texas Roadhouse. Love that. I love the rolls and the butter that you get there. I love the peanuts. I love the whole thing. I'm not like a country guy at all, like loving the country ambiance, but there's something about it that like I'm almost just like a sucker for that. Like bring it all to me. I love Texas Roadhouse. So that sounds like a great way to spend the day, especially when your team wins. Congratulations, Kavoth, and thank you for your contribution and your support of the channel. And Michael, thank you for the reciprocation here. K-State did look very good today. Best they've played all season in beating Kansas 42-17, a 17th straight win over the arch rival. I will just slip in here that the last time Kansas beat K-State in football, George W. Bush was president. The iPhone 1 was out. Steve Jobs had just introduced the iPhone 1, and Netflix was still delivering DVDs. So simpler time, my friends. But thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Okay, here we go. let's talk to let's Mr. Bucknuts. I'm going to bring this up because this is where I want to go next. I want to talk about Cincinnati. I asked this question on Twitter. Now, this was when it was 24-0 Cincinnati over Baylor today. And then Baylor came all the way back to where now, bam, it looks like a dogfight. They're in a game, and I had all these people coming in my mentions. Well, Cincinnati. Could Cincinnati be the best in the Big 12? What a ridiculous question, John. No, they're not. No, they're not. I don't know, guys. I think this is a question worth asking. I know BYU is unbeaten overall, but BYU did not play a team as good as Nebraska in its non-con, especially a de facto road game in the non-con, which is what Cincinnati did by playing that game at Arrowhead. And so that's the only thing that's really separating them right now. Like BYU played at East Carolina, Cincinnati essentially played at Nebraska, and they were very close. I mean, if Brendan Sorsby just keeps that one in the holster and doesn't throw the ball that wound up being intercepted there at the end of the game, I really wonder what would have happened. It looked like they were driving for at least the game-tying field goal. But either way, I think we need to ask the question, Mr. Bucknuts, I guess is the point here. I think we need to ask the question, is Cincinnati actually the best team in the league? As much as I rave about Bear Bachmeier, like Brendan Sorsby is having a first-team All-Big 12 caliber season. Today was not the day for like the massive eye-popping numbers, though he did run the ball for almost 8 yards a carry, 11 carries for 85 yards and a TD, 13-21 through the air, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. So modest numbers for Sorsby passing the ball. But this is where I would give a plug to Open for Business. If you are a Cincinnati fan or you just a Big 12 fan, you want to stay up to date. I wrote about Brendan Sorsby in Cincinnati in the latest Open for Business send earlier this week. And it was about how Sorsby is playing that well right now, where he is a guy that is putting up a first-team All-Big 12 caliber season. He leads the conference in total QBR, leads the conference in PFF grade, I guess, with today to be determined. We'll see. But he also had 24 total touchdowns, which was tied for the most in the country, and he added 3 more today. So it certainly seems like all of that would still stand for Sorsby, even if he only threw for 111 yards today. But beating Iowa State, Cincinnati really got after Iowa State, beat them up, beat up Baylor today. I mean, it still winds up being a 3-score win. And they were up at one point in that game, 24-0. Baylor still just seemingly cannot start playing well in a game until they're really bleeding their own blood, like they're tasting their own blood down by multiple scores. Then they come alive. I don't know what the deal is with Dave Aranda not being able to generate that sooner. But yes, Cincinnati belongs in that conversation. Not enough people are watching that team. There's a great graphic ESPN had up late in the game about 4 guys who are going to be draft picks from that team. Obviously, Dante Corleone. You got a couple different tight ends. Joe Royer, obviously, is awesome. He only had 1 catch for 12 yards today, interestingly enough. But like Evan Pryor and Tawi Walker, the 2 running backs that they have, it's a very formidable combo that Cincinnati has there. So, like, it's a good team, man. It's a good team. They combined today for about 150 yards, Walker and Pryor. Since he's got weapons, I love that offense. Defense maybe leaves a little something to be desired, but they've done it. They've done it at home and on the road so far this year. I guess the Kansas win is not looking as impressive after today. But, I mean, if you look at Cincinnati's schedule down the stretch, not only right now are they still unbeaten in the conference, but they got to go to Utah, which is going to be a tough game. They got to play BYU. That's going to be a tough game. Arizona and TCU. I would say 3 of these 4, and I will say going to Utah is difficult, but 3 of the 4 are games against teams where you're like, well, I mean, they probably should win. Like, that's certainly not a gimme. That's not a pushover, but they probably should win. Let me see what the ESPN projection think. Wow, they're still saying like 75-25 Utah in the game at Utah. So I guess maybe I stand corrected on that. In fact, it's like 55-45 for Cincinnati BYU that's being played at Nippert. So I guess maybe I should change my stance on that. But I think the schedule is manageable enough. They don't have to play Texas Tech, which I think is undoubtedly the most talented team in the league. Cincinnati belongs in this conversation. They're not going anywhere. And the guy that emailed me this week the Cincy fan that emailed me this week and opened for business, who was frustrated with my lack of Cincinnati coverage after their win last week, which was really just because it was over Oklahoma State. No offense to the Cowboys, but I'm not giving a lot of publicity to the teams that are playing them that week. I try to make it up to him and say, hey, since he's playing really well, and since he played really well once again, they're in this conversation for sure. For sure. And that is one of the more stunning things. I mean, Scott Satterfield, I just did not have a very high opinion of him as a coach at all. I did kind of like Brendan Sorsby from last year, but it felt like a lot of the team, especially when I watched them play late in the year in Manhattan, felt like a lot of the team had kind of checked out when they still had a bowl game on the line. So I didn't have a lot of faith in Scott Satterfield pulling this off this year, but they look great. They look great right now. Let's see. Al says, won't bet against BYU again this year. You sure won't. I don't think my guy Cole Manbeck will either. Who bet big against BYU today. That did not work out well. Payson Cougar fan says, used up another life today. Go Cougs. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it seems weird to say that in a 14-point win, right? But I get what you're saying. When one of the key swings of momentum in the game is just a guy like backpedaling on a punt and his leg happens to hit the football. I do get that. But I don't know, man. The second half, it certainly looked like BYU was definitely the better team. Dan DeGaston, BYU does it again. Indeed they do. Dan, thank you for the support. Thank you, everybody who's here. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Everybody who is here, I appreciate you popping in with me in the middle of the college football Saturday here. Texas Tech, I guess, would maybe be the last thing to mention here. Texas Tech did not have any problem today. 42-0 with Oklahoma State. They jumped out 21-0 in the first quarter. It was 28-0 at halftime. You got two different quarterbacks in besides Will Hammond. I mean, Mitch Griffs actually threw for more yardage than Will Hammond today because they just didn't have to use Hammond all that much. 9 of 15, 102 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for 21 yards. Just pretty ho-hum from Texas Tech. Terrence Carter didn't play, right? Who's tight end with 5 touchdowns on the year, leading the Tech receiving corps. At least he was going into today, who had a TD. I think as long as Virgil did not have one, that'll still stand. Terrence Carter is the team leader in touchdowns. We obviously know about the injury to Skylar Gill-Howard. So Texas Tech's dealing with its own injury issues now. I think it was very wise of them to not push Baron Morton at all today. And now it sets up what's actually a really intriguing game at K-State next week. I'll be very interested to see what the line is on that game. I mean, I have been the negative K-State fan. I took crap all week from K-State fans on the 3 Mile podcast this week for not giving K-State enough of a chance to win. I have been very negative and slow to adjust to, all right, this team for the last month has been a much different team than it was for the first month of the season, which the first month of the season, it was about as bad as it gets. They have been much better, and they showed that again today against Kansas. If K-State wouldn't have blown a 14-point lead with the football in the fourth quarter in Waco, K-State would be 4-1 in the Big 12 right now and right in the thick of the race. As it stands, they're 3-2 and still very much involved if they win out, but that would require beating Texas Tech at home next week. I do think that game becomes interesting. If you get the same type of K-State team that played today, that team could compete with Texas Tech. If it's a night game in Manhattan, you're going to get a good atmosphere and an environment now because the fans are back on board with the pummeling of Kansas. Nothing will rally K-State fans like that. That does become really interesting. And then after that, Texas Tech's got to host BYU. So, I mean, it's heating up, dude. We're getting some good games. Arizona State's got to play Iowa State next week. That'll be a good game. Like, we're going to continue to get great Big 12 football games coming down the stretch here. I'm really excited for it. It's very, like we say about this league, it's from week to week. You get a lot of zaniness happening. You get a lot of crazy things happening, but Texas Tech and BYU have sort of cream rising to the top right now. They have drifted up toward the top of the conference. And Cincinnati. Why the hell am I leaving? Look, I'm getting an angry email as I speak on that. I do not mean to leave Cincinnati out of that. It's Cincinnati, Texas Tech, and BYU if we're talking about cream rising to the top in the conference right now. Definitely looks like those three are a nose or two ahead of everybody else in the league, but that can change very quickly. And a lot of these teams are going to play coming down the stretch run of the last month plus of the season. So I'm looking forward to that. Jeremiah, loving the Big 12. Good teams, good play. Go Cougs. Thank you, Jeremiah. Appreciate your support of the channel. I'm going to have a lot more to say. On the live show tomorrow. And yeah, I'm looking at David's super chat here. So I will address that here in a moment, David. But I will have a chance to digest things more, give you some more takes, some more in-depth takes, wider scope look at the league and the college football landscape in general tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that live show around 7:30, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. See, just stay tuned. If you click the bell, if you subscribe and click the bell, you'll get an alert every single time I'm going live. So that's a great way to do that. David says, why is everyone counting TCU out? They're working on 6-2 and in the race, and no one is saying a word about them. Well, David, this has been a common gripe for you throughout the season. So I know that this is definitely your jam to talk about. I don't trust TCU. I'll be honest. I don't. And if I wind up being wrong, you can come back and dunk on me. But I watched TCU just lay a complete freaking egg in Manhattan I guess that was 2 weeks ago now. I watched TCU damn near throw away a 21-point lead and the ball with like 6 minutes left in a football game last week against Baylor. Frankly, I don't trust them. There's always a lot of nonsense happening seemingly with TCU. They blew a 17-point lead at Arizona State because Sonny wouldn't run the ball. TCU has not earned enough trust from me to be legitimately considered in this race. They also have an extra loss than the three teams that I just mentioned. They have 2 more losses in the conference race than BYU and Cincinnati do, and they have 1 more than Texas Tech, but Tech is just head and shoulders above everybody else when it comes to high-level talent. So they're going to get an extra bump from me there. Combined with, it just always seems like there's some nonsense happening around TCU. That's why. That's why, David. And I see Mr. Bucknut saying Hoover's a damn good QB. He is, but I also saw him look horrific in Manhattan 2 weeks ago. Like there have been a lot of ups and downs with that. And the Arizona State game was not a real prolific game for Josh Hoover. And he struggled after the first quarter. So I've seen long periods of him struggling this season as well. So that's why, David, it's nothing personal against your team, but I don't think that they have proven quite as much as what the other 3 main contenders have that we're talking about here. Oh boy, I don't like this. Word on Cougar Board is that LJ Martin has a broken collarbone. That would suck. Man, that would not be good. It's not been a position group this year where BYU's had the best of luck injury-wise. That would limit things. It would also, I would say, look, I don't want to speculate at all really about the injury, so I probably just shouldn't even. But if it's a guy who's, almost immediately taking his pads off and having to be removed, you would kind of think that it would lean towards being something more serious. But I hope that's incorrect. And I hope we're going to see LJ Martin back soon. But that's a bummer. That's a bummer if true. Total bummer. Okay. I think that's going to wrap it up for me here. We've got the night games getting ready to start, or 6 o'clock windows already started. So thank you all. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Thank you for tuning in here for this little live chat. Oh, Brian Kelly, good old Brian Kelly on my screen getting interviewed by Holly Rowe. Well, you guys know what that means. I have to go listen to Brian Kelly, nicest, most genuine man in the history of the world. Take care, guys. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon.